Everyone is so scared about bowel movements after birth, and so was I. Okay. Oh, I'm so scared to talk about all this, but I just felt so guilty. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Ruby Roy, and welcome back to my perfectly imperfect life. Okay. This morning I sat down and wrote out all my notes from each day in the hospital to film this video, and I'm honestly really scared to film this. I guess I didn't realize how much trauma was involved in my mental state during this time. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is to kind of just go through roughly what happened each day in the hospital, and then I will touch on the traumatic stuff. So if you guys are new here, I would recommend watching the last video because that was my labor/birth story, and I'm kind of following on just from there. So I kind of ended it with us just giving birth. So I'm starting off just after that, so we are still in the birth suite. I do want to preface also that I do talk about some sensitive topics in here that are a bit TMI to some people. I will be talking about some very physical attributes, obviously, because I am going through a recovery from labor. So if any of that makes you queasy or uncomfortable, I would recommend either not watching or just choosing wisely which parts you listen to. I don't want to scare anyone with my process either. That is the last thing I want to do with this information. I know that my next time going through this whole process would be a lot smoother than this time, obviously, because I'm learning everything from scratch. So I just want to be as honest as I can, because I wish I watched something like this just so I know that this is how I could have felt, not necessarily how I would feel. I don't know if that made sense. Basically, I just want to be really honest. I am literally already sweating, and I've been sitting here for 3 minutes and haven't even gotten started. But yeah, let's just start off with the normal stuff. Just as a brief context, I went into labor on the 28th of July, which was a Thursday, and gave birth early the Friday morning, the 29th of July. 2:53 I gave birth. So directly after this, he is placed on my chest and we have skin to skin for as long as possible. He isn't crying like babies do when they come out, so they're not worried or anything, but they're just keeping an eye on it because he also had a kind of gurgly breathing. They kind of wanted him to cry to release the mucus that was making him have the gurgly breathing, and it just wasn't happening. So they checked his blood oxygen levels and it was all good. He also came out jaundiced, so he was very yellow when he was first born. So we were really wanting to get him fed and latched on, because obviously getting nutrients and everything from breast milk really helps jaundice. I'm a little hazy around when we tried to first latch him. I know we had skin on skin for quite a while. I don't know whether it was straight away we tried to latch him. I don't know whether it was after a little while, and Luke can't remember either, so I am sorry about that. Either way, we had a little bit of trouble, I think because he was so sleepy or he just didn't latch. So I had to hand express my boobs for colostrum. I was actually lucky enough to be quite abundant in, so I was able to express colostrum for him. And then around 7 o'clock, just before shifts change in midwives, they really wanted me to have a shower. So I went to sit up to have a shower and actually got really lightheaded, like I was gonna faint. So they checked my blood pressure and my blood pressure was fine. So then they started to worry about me having clots in my uterus. I said to them, and was almost positive, that it's just because I hadn't eaten, because it's been like I've been in labor, had just had like crackers, like hadn't had any proper food, and I know that when I do that I get really lightheaded. But they were still quite worried about it being clots, so they said that it's going to be quite painful and that if I wanted to hop on the morphine gas again I could. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So I hopped on the morphine gas, and as I briefly mentioned in my labor vlog, that did nothing for me in labor, and I had 2 puffs of this thing after labor with no pain, and I was like tipsy drunk, and I was like, whoa. And she's like, yeah, it works when you're not in labor. And I was like, why can't it work like this when you're in labor? So I did that, and they actually pushed on my uterus to try and get any clots to come out, and nothing came out. And then I mentioned the food again, and yeah, they were like, oh my gosh, that's right, and went and got some food. Which ended up, I think, just being the reason why. Because of all that happening, I missed the midwife shift. So I was on the next midwife shift, and this midwife came in and helped me shower. That's the hardest shower I've ever taken in my life. Just walking over, because I obviously had the epidural, so I had now gotten feeling back in my legs and everything. I had walked, oh no, I did not walk. There's no way I walked to the shower. They definitely wheeled me. No, how did I get to the shower? Either way, I don't know whether I was wheeled to the shower or just really gingerly helped walking to the shower, but either way, in the shower, I sat on a chair. I felt so heavy, like my whole body felt so heavy, like I couldn't hold it. So I was very quickly trying to shower because I just wanted to lay back in bed. So the showering was really hard. I was very physically exhausted, very heavy, sore, and I was sitting there just trying to get it done, and it's quite hard to clean yourself on a chair as well. And eventually I got up and got dressed in the daggiest clothes, but comfiest clothes. At that point I sat straight on the wheelchair to be wheeled to the maternity ward. So I randomly one night, I don't know which night, filmed the room, so I'll quickly overlay that here. It was quite dark when I filmed it. I don't know why I tried to film it then, but it was just a small room, so you can see the front door and then like the bathroom on the right, and then there's obviously my bed, and next to me was his bassinet, which we could wheel around anywhere we wanted, and Luke's very terrible couch that he had to sleep on, which I feel so sorry him for sleeping on. Like, it was weird to move from the birth suite when you're with a midwife 24/7. Like, I had someone there the whole time with me, and then go into the maternity ward, and the midwives have shifts, so they have their shift looking after however many rooms, which isn't a lot. Like, they're still there a lot with you, and you can press a button at any time and they come in, which was so nice. But like, they're also not there, like they're seeing other people, and they just check on you. If you haven't buzzed, they just check on you every couple of hours or something. So I can't really remember why I was pushing it so hard, but I really wanted to get my catheter out. I don't think I was in any pain or anything like that. I think it was a little bit uncomfortable for me, but I was like right before the time when you want to get the catheter out, and I was like, can I please get it out? I have a feeling it's because I need to go to the toilet to do a number 2. And I was like, I really don't want the catheter to be there. Now, to talk about that, everyone is so scared about bowel movements after birth, and so was I, because the way I was feeling down there felt like there is no way in heck I'm going to be able to do a number 2. And I asked the midwife, I was like, is there any tricks here to do this? Obviously, because I had stitches down there too, I wanted to know, obviously I don't wipe, so how to clean it. She said there's like a perfect way to poo, like, you know, the position where your like legs are up and all that. So like, that's what you have to do. Every time I had to go to the toilet for a number 2, I'd let it get to a point where I felt so sick that I would go to the toilet feeling so sick, and it would just come out. That's really gross to talk about. I don't know how to word that any better, but like, basically I'd let it go so far that I didn't have to push. That's probably a better way to put it. But yeah, I was still really scared for them and didn't know like how they were going to go. And yeah, sometimes it did hurt. Definitely don't push it through after birth. I know that to be let out of the hospital after you've got an epidural and your catheter out, you need to be able to do a wee, and I had no dramas with that, so I can't really comment on that. So going into this, I thought hospitals really tried to push you out after the first day, and not in like a bad way, but just like, I thought that's like people just went home the next day after birth. So the next day I was expecting to just go home. So this is Saturday the 30th of July, but the midwives were kind of like, we definitely think you should stay another night. And I'm like, kind of like, what? Why? Which is like so bizarre to me, because I'm like, nothing was going good at this point, and I'm just like, yeah, I can go home. Oh my god, guys, you're just so tunnel vision and you're just so in survival mode that you're just not thinking anything through. But the midwives advised that it was wise to stay another night. A, because we were still having troubles with Zephyr latching / having a good feed. Like, I think he was latching, but not for a good portion of time. So I was still expressing colostrum and giving it to him in a syringe and still trying to get him to latch and things like that. And they were also worried about his jaundice, because obviously he was quite jaundiced when he was born, and they really wanted to keep an eye on that for another day. Me and Luke obviously talked about it and were like, this is why it's like we should stay and obviously make sure everything's fine before leaving. Due to us kind of being like, oh, like we want to go home and all this, they kind of scheduled in all the tests and everything for us to go the next day. So like, because we're choosing to stay this extra night, they were like, okay, we'll book everything for you to kind of get done tomorrow so you can leave tomorrow. So this is one thing I talked about in my last video too, but the midwives and hospital staff at this hospital are just amazing. Like, they have to go through everything with you in detail, make sure you're okay with it. They kind of go over reasons why they're doing it, get your permission, and then again make sure that you're okay with it before doing it. So like, they would debrief you so much, and I was so shocked and just like pleasantly surprised that the day after, I'm in the maternity ward, I get a knock on my door, and it's the lady that aided us with the vacuum and episiotomy during my labour. She's basically come to debrief me again, because she's like, a lot of people obviously are in a state in labour that they don't remember or don't know why things happened. So she came in basically to debrief me again, make sure I was still okay with everything that had happened and understand why it all happened the way it did, which I just thought was like above and beyond for a hospital to do, and I was so grateful, and I thought that was really interesting to include. I hadn't even thought about it anymore. I was fine with everything that had happened. I mentioned the days are kind of the same, so it's basically nappy changes, feeding him, whether it was colostrum, latching him, all those sorts of things, and rocking him to sleep. I unfortunately was not a part of this, except for the breastfeeding. Obviously I was feeding him, but Luke was the one that was rocking him to sleep when he was crying and couldn't get settled, and doing all the nappy changes, because I was in a physical state where I was unable to. I don't think I could have rocked him to sleep even if I had to. It was just really hard for me to even stand, let alone stand and rock him to sleep. The hospital provided ice packs, which really helped downstairs too, if you guys need any tips like that. My friend also said to freeze maternity pads and put them in your undies. I never got to try that, but the hospital ice packs did really help. And when I say you're so tunnel vision, the hospital staff and Luke told me about the hospital ice packs so many times. I used them twice during 4 days at the hospital because I just forgot about them directly after being told about them. Okay, so let's kind of go into how I'm feeling physically postpartum. I'm not sure if it's because I had the vacuum, I'm not sure if it's just how you feel after labour, but whenever I stood, it felt like all my organs were deflated and sitting really heavy at the bottom, especially my lungs. It felt like my lungs were kind of squished and like bent over. That's how it felt. It felt like I couldn't breathe a full deep breath because everything was just so heavy. I don't want to scare anyone, but it felt like my organs were going to come out my bum. That's how heavy I felt. This is just how I felt postpartum, and you could feel totally different. I don't want to compare myself to other people's situations, but as I said in the last video, this is how I can find how I'm going from other people's situations. A lot of other people go on walks, and even my mum, I call her a couple times, she's like, you should really try to go for a walk today. And I'm like, I can't stand, I can't go for a walk. And so many people say to do that postpartum. I'm like, I could not go for a walk from my bed to the toilet without being so physically exhausted and wanting to lie down. And I still had to make the journey back to the bed. Oh, there is so much to touch on with breastfeeding, and I can do a whole breastfeeding video if you guys want to see that, my tips, what happened, everything like that. But I just want to say that my boobs and nipples, I knew that they were meant to get sore. I just didn't know how sore, and I wish I had prepared better. And I wish I'd researched better, because I was doing things that weren't necessarily helping, and I thought they were. They weren't hindering or making it worse, but they weren't helping. Because I had to express colostrum into a syringe and feed Zephyr, when my milk came in, it was again worse, because obviously you're still trying to latch, I had been squishing them for colostrum all day, and then my milk came in, and you've got that really full kind of engorged pain as well. And I was very lucky with my colostrum and milk supply the whole time, but I just wanted to touch that my boobs and stuff were really sore, especially my nipples. Saturday night I was in so much pain with my boobs that he woke crying for a feed, and I was almost in tears talking to Luke. I was like, I can't put him on. Like, it is so painful. The thought of him latching on right now, like, I can't do it. Like, and I'm good with pain. I'd been pushing through, but this night I was like, I can't do it. So this is when a midwife came in, and well, we buzzed her in, and I was like, I can't do this. And I was tearing up. Like, I was like, I really can't have him latch on, like, I'm in so much pain. And I was like getting really emotional about it. She's like, that's fine, we'll just pump. And I'm like, but won't that boost my supply and like not level out? And she's like, it's okay, like your boobs need a break. And I was like, I was so worried. I'd read so many things about pumping boosting your supply when they don't need it, you know, them not feeding from the boob can cause so many things. And the midwife's just like, are you gonna put him on your boob? And I was like, I really don't want to. And she's like, exactly. So this is like what we have to do to give your boobs a break in order to get him back on your boob. Pumping that night helped me so much. It just gave my boobs that little bit of a break that they needed in order to be able to feed Zephyr again. Waking up Sunday, the 31st of July, a couple days in hospital now, I woke up before Zephyr and before Luke. And I was sitting there in my bed, and I was just thinking, and then I started to overthink, and then I had a mini breakdown. Didn't wake anyone up to help me, which was probably stupid, and I should have woken Luke up or something, because I literally just had a mini breakdown. And before either of the boys had even woken up, the midwives came in, so they were the ones dealing with my breakdown. And I wasn't crying or anything, but I was like hyperventilating. I was in bed and I was like, oh my gosh, like we've got to go home today. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm not going to be able to press a button and someone's going to be able to come help me. Like, what if I have a question? What am I going to do? And I was just freaking out. Like, I was like, he's not latching correctly. I can't even move. Our bedroom's upstairs. And I was like, I don't think I can walk up our stairs. And I just snowballed. Midwives came in and they're like, hey, like, how you feeling? Expecting me to be going home today, remember? And I'm just like, I am really overwhelmed. And they're like, okay, because like one of them was the night shift midwife, and I had been like excited about going home. So she's like confused, and I'm just like, I'm really overwhelmed and everything. And they're like, you don't have to go home. She's like, you can stay another night. I really thought hospitals push people out to like have a room available, but this hospital was not like that. So immediately I was really relieved, but immediately I was also kind of felt guilty, because I know how much me and Luke wanted to go home. Like, we wanted to see Luna, we wanted to start our life at home as a family, and I was scared how Luke would take it as well. But he woke up and he's like, I wish I was awake for all this. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry, but like I really think we should stay another night. Like, Zephyr's still not latching, and like I still feel like I can't move. And he was totally understandable, but we knew this was the right decision in order to care for Zephyr and care for me. So because we kind of planned to be going home this day, they kind of booked everything. So like, he had his hearing test, he had like a pediatrician come and look over all aspects of him, make sure everything's all good. He had a heel prick, which was for bloods for like conditions, and got tested again for jaundice, which was slowly getting better and better, but he was still quite yellow, so they were still keeping quite a close eye on his jaundice levels. But he was under the point where they had to act and put him under the UV lights to help. But everything was all clear, and like the bloods were sent off, and they said if anything's wrong you'll be contacted. But everything was fine, which I was super grateful for. And by the end of that day, We had had really good feedings throughout the day with Zephyr, and I was able to move around a little bit this day, and I just felt so much more confident about going home. Like, we could have probably gone home that night, but obviously it was nighttime and there was no benefit to us going home anyway, so we're like, we'll just stay the night. So I actually became quite excited to go home. And I also talked to Mum on FaceTime that day. The tunnel vision thing coming in again here, but like, she's like, Ruby, you know, like when you go home, like you can FaceTime me anytime and ask any questions, because Mum, if you guys weren't aware, was on call for being at my labour with me, but she got COVID a few days before I went into labour. So not only could she not be at my labour, but she couldn't visit the hospital this whole time as well. So that was really, really difficult for both of us. Like, there was moments we'd both be crying on FaceTime. And I think now, looking back, a lot of the anxiety about me going home was, I think, because I didn't have Mum. Because obviously Mum's like my best friend. I can ask her any questions. She's been through it. So I think a lot of the anxiety was also around that. This brings us to Monday, the 1st of August. We wake in the hospital, and because we thought we were leaving yesterday and then decided not to because of my little mental breakdown, we had all the tests done. Basically everything was done. It was just the last few things for them to check over and like to clear us to leave. Like around 10 a.m. we got cleared, and then she's like, oh, has anyone shown you how to bath him yet? Because we hadn't bathed him yet, and he was still bloody. I know that sounds gross, but like, we had no idea how to bath him. We didn't even know if we were allowed to bath him because of his umbilical cord and things like that. So she quickly taught us how to bath him, and we got like this picture that I'll treasure forever. He's screaming in the bath. At first he loved it, but as soon as we pulled out the camera, he hated it. And dressed him for his first outfit to leave, and we left just before lunch on the 1st of August, which is such a great feeling. I remember just like being like, this is so exciting, scary, but exciting. So that's everything day by day, and there's things now I want to touch on as a general thing for the whole stay. I'm literally sweating. This is where I touch on my struggles a bit. First of all, I'll do the easy ones. So the meals at the hospital weren't that great, but some things were really freaking yummy. But I had no appetite, and I'm not really sure if it's because I wasn't hungry or couldn't tell I was hungry, because the whole time when I was pregnant I couldn't tell when I was hungry. Either way, I just really didn't want to eat, and I think it was also because I was slightly scared to go to the toilet. I had so many midwives over so many shifts, and there are only 2 that I felt slightly uncomfortable with, but like only ever so slightly. The rest were lovely, and it was just like such a good experience for me, and I just want to thank them so much. I know they're probably never going to watch this, but you guys helped so much and impacted my whole stay in such a positive way. Okay. Oh, I'm so scared to talk about all this. Okay, so for me, during this whole time, my mental state was really not good. I know that some people go through this, and I know it's not talked about too much, but I had been warned about it. I've been warned about people feeling slightly disconnected from their child when they gave birth, and I was like, oh, that's not going to be me, because I've dreamt of having a child my whole life and being a mother. So I was like, there is no way I will feel disconnected. And I mentioned in my labor vlog that it felt very surreal, and that's definitely how it started. It just felt surreal, and like I didn't have him, like he can't just be in front of me like this. Like, it felt very surreal. With recovery, breastfeeding, the pain I was in with both of those, and then also just not being able to rock him to sleep or, you know, have any of those rewards, felt really disconnected from Zephyr, and I hated that. I had only ever thought that I would feel this strong connection, and I felt really disconnected because I was in so much pain, and like some of it was caused by him. I felt really, really guilty because of it, and the guilt was really overwhelming because some days he would stir to wake up, and I was in so much pain that I would feel immediately sick, and then I would be like, why do I feel sick at my own child waking? But I just felt so guilty. I just never ever ever thought I would have felt like that, so it was really confusing to have that span over like 2 or 3 days. I was like, oh my gosh, like how am I going days like how is this happening? Why is this happening? I can happily say now that that is so far from how I'm feeling now. It was so hard for me. I just couldn't understand, and I still don't really. I don't really understand how I felt like that. And everything's just such a shock to the system. I thought I'd film a birth vlog, like the 24 hours after having a newborn, the whole hospital stay, but you're just so consumed, and like it's just so much you are trying to do. You're trying to recover, you're trying to learn how to look after a human. Like it was just all so much, and like I had to prioritize us. There was no way I was going to be able to film it looking back now. I just wanted to touch on that as well, because I know I said I wanted to film, but it was just all consuming. Tied into how I was feeling with guilt and everything, there was so much anxiety, obviously, learning everything new, and then obviously feeling that huge disconnect, and pain and all that. I was really attached to Luke. Luke had to be doing a lot of the physical things because I couldn't rock him to sleep. I couldn't therefore calm him when he was crying unless he was crying for food. So when Luke had to leave, because obviously meals aren't provided for partners, or because we didn't plan on staying so long, we ran out of nappies, I ran out of maternity pads. Like Luke needed to duck out to get these things. You know, if Luke was gone and Zeph would like move in the cot, I would feel physically ill, because I was like, oh my gosh, like he's waking, like I've got to do all this stuff that I can't do. But like it was, I had so much anxiety. I'm putting my laptop to the side now. I am literally dripping sweat. I don't know how much of that I'm gonna share. I felt guilty at the time for how I was feeling, and I still feel guilty. I have so much love and connection to this being that I can't ever understand how I ever felt disconnected from him. I was even dreading it today. Looking back and feeling all those emotions again has just made me just feel so, I don't know. So anyway guys, that was my hospital stay. I hope that this doesn't scare anyone. As I said, I don't want it to scare anyone. This is my story. Yours could be totally different. But I also wanted to be completely honest, because I know I wish I could have seen something about this side of postpartum before going through it like I did. I can comfortably say, guys, that I'm so far away from feeling like that. It's just that I look upset, because reliving it all is quite traumatic for me. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and for letting me be vulnerable. Please, if you don't understand or find it strange, know that I do too, and don't be aggressive or comment anything mean. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please comment them down below, and I will answer and be honest, as I always am. If you want to see more of these videos and more updates, feel free to subscribe. I've still got a lot of videos planned that kind of bring you up to speed. I've been vlogging here and there up to this point, which now I am 12 weeks postpartum, starting our life as a family, and it's been so much fun. But it's also been really hard to film, because obviously it's all consuming. But I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.